Hey, welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. Thank you for joining us in the meat production barn. And we're briefly talking today about the effect of warm temperature on Cornish rock cross meat chickens. Thanks again for joining us. It's Melissa. Welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. We appreciate you viewing. Please like our video. Please subscribe to our channel and feel free to interact in the comments. We love to get the input from our viewers from any of your own experiences and any questions that you might have about what we're doing and about our process. So actually, I wanted to do a video today about the features of the meat bird production building that we have. It's a small building. We built it ourselves. The main part of the barn is 30 foot by 30 foot, and we wanted a lot of ventilation, a lot of natural airflow in it, and so that's basically the priority that it was designed around. And we also attached 2 sheds to the building for our own use. One is more or less an office and one as a freezer house to hold some of the product that we produce from raising Cornish rock cross meat chickens. So that was my aim in my mind when I came into the meat bird pen here this afternoon. But as we observe the birds frequently, and as I was observing the birds, I thought, really, it's a better opportunity to do a video on the effect of temperature on Cornish rock meat chickens. First of all, because it's a warm day for us here where we're at today. It's 79 degrees on the thermometer. Feels a little warmer than that. But secondly, because we also have a point of comparison of different ages and stages of the bird. So you can actually get a visual of how different aged Cornish rock cross meat chickens tolerate heat differently and react to it differently. So we'll do that today, and some of the features of our building will come out in that brief discussion, but we'll talk about the building another day. So anyway, we're going to put the camera back on the birds, and so the goal is to show you some of the behaviors that we see from the birds that indicates they're feeling warm. So when we're looking at 4-week-old Cornish rock cross meat chickens, we can just basically start with the premise that they pretty much want the temperature to be about 68 degrees. And so when we get a day that is warmer, especially warmer than say 70 degrees, we're going to start to see that effect on the birds that we're raising. So here is a great example. We're going to start to see birds open their beak while they're breathing, and a very almost labored breathing, but not so much in their body heaving, but in them opening that beak. I'm going to try to find another bird because that one is also, this one's doing this as well. They're actually, I hope you can get the effect of this looking in the camera frame. They're actually holding their wings out from the side of their body. And they're doing that in order to create a little space under the wing so that they can get some airflow in there, where like right under the wing, there's not, feather growth there. If we could pull that wing up and look up underneath it, you can see it in these birds here too. They're holding their wings out slightly from their body to get some air in there. Another thing that they will do, and it's good, those are at the water, so that's a very good indication. And there's one there, a very labored, like gaping mouth, and that breath, and a quick respiration pattern, and the wings are held out away from the body quite a bit. Now, the one right beside it, you can get the effect of how that one isn't sitting square down. It's sort of got one leg out to the side. I've got one. See, as I move, they start to move. I've got one right there too. It kind of moved. Trying to find one. As they get warm, they will start to lay on their side and put one leg out to the side in order. There's one. I'll stay back here and try to zoom in. So see, it's kind of propped up, on one drumstick, more or less, so that it's got some space there. And that's what that bird is trying to accomplish. The underbelly doesn't have any feather growth on it, so that bird is trying to expose its underbelly to get some air moving there so that it can feel a little cooler. So these are cooling mechanisms for these birds when they get warm. Holding the wings away from the side, setting propped up so that where they don't have feather growth, is exposed. They can try to be cooler. Also, that breathing where the mouth is open, like this one. And then I've got one over here at the wall. There, you really can't tell this from here, but over there, short wall, it's more, the bigger one, is more or less laid on its side. There it goes. But it's also dust bathing. And so they're, they're kicking up some dust, and that kind of cools them too, because they're agitating that bedding. And that is part of the issues. So even though, seeing how that one's walking. So even though it's like 79 or 80 degrees, on the thermometer, and that's what we're kind of going off of as far as what temperature is it, but what you have to remember about your birds is that not only are they dealing with the temperature, the actual temperature that it is outdoors, say, or in their environment, but they are also dealing with the flooring. And so be aware that your flooring is putting off heat, even if it's just dirt and bedding under, under the birds. Because this bedding, especially if you use like a deep litter bedding where you're just adding bedding and you're not disturbing that bedding until your birds are all through production and out of your building, and then taking the bedding out, that bedding's building up, and simultaneously the biological matter from the chicken manure is building up there too. And so that floor is actually putting off heat of its own. So in addition to dealing with the temperature in their environment, they're also dealing with the ambient temperature being affected by heat coming off of the flooring. And so that's actually why this building is set up the way it is, because we have another building that we used to raise smaller flocks of Cornish rock cross in, and when it would get about 73 or 74 degrees outside, we would kind of cross a threshold where we could no longer cool the building down enough to keep the birds comfortable, because of it was a metal sided building, and between the metal siding and the way the sun hit it and the heat coming off of the bedding and the chicken manure, even though we're adding fresh bedding, that just, it starts to create an ambient temperature that they can't compensate for with these coping mechanisms. So that's basically what we're seeing. Now, what I can say is good about what I'm seeing in this pen is I've got birds still willing to go eat voluntarily on their own. A lot of birds there eating. Birds that are getting up, going to waters on their own also. We've got a water over there. Birds are going to it. So they're willing to get up. They're willing to move around, willing to stretch. We've actually, we can let them out. We've actually closed them in on these sides, because especially on this side, you can see they get out there and they get in the sunlight, and there's not a lot of shade back here really either. Not to the extent that it looks there in the frame. But if they get out there and get in the sunlight and get hot, then they aren't going to want to move and come back in, and that's actually more stress on them. So we're not going to be in here like moving them around. We're not going to add feed right now. Don't feed your birds in the hot part of the day. We're trying not to get them excited. But, we're just going to have as much ventilation happening in here as we can. We're going to have access for them to fresh water that's cool. And we've got all of the heat lamps turned off. Now, I want to show you on this other side, though. So there's about 218 birds over here. We've seen their coping mechanisms for trying to cool off. Over here, this is going to be kind of quick because I'm trying to scan that pen and show you what I've got. Over there, there's about 300, a little over 300 birds that are almost a week old. And you can see that we actually still have on just about every other heat lamp. There's a beam coming down. And actually, at the heat lamps, some of the birds are actually going toward the beam and staying on the outside end of it and kind of making that semicircle around that beam of light. So we've turned off enough of the lights in there that they're not too hot, but they're comfortable. And the ones that want to be warmer, want to get close to the light, they can do that. So, but that's the difference. The birds at like a week old, they want to be about 95 degrees all the time. And the birds, as they get older, the birds that like we saw that are about 4 weeks old, they would really prefer to be like about 68 degrees. So your younger birds will take a little bit, of heat and tolerate it well, because they actually want to be warmer. They want to be still like 95 degrees week 1. Week 2, you want to bump it down to about 90, then progressively just bring the temperature down for them. And then ideally, if we could keep these birds around 68 degrees, that would be their preference. But the features of our building that let us try to keep them comfortable is that we can open up all 4 sides of it, and we can get ventilation. So I'm actually scanning back, so we can get ventilation coming in from all 4 sides. Now actually the furthest side over there, we've got a lot of sun coming in now, so I'm actually going to go close that side up to prevent some of that sun coming in, because that side is going to start to be very warm, and it's going to stress those birds out that are preferring to be on that side of the building. So just wanted to show you that today. You do see some behaviors present in your Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens that will indicate to you if they're too warm, and you can take measures to try to help them. But if they just try not to stress them out when they're warm, and try not to let the temperature get too excessive, and then they'll probably do okay coming through it. So thanks for joining us here at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube, and we hope that you'll join us again.